For the past half a century, an ancient army of warriors has been quietly conquering the world. Wherever small battalions of China's famous terracotta warriors are exhibited, they win over a new legion of fans.
For nearly 50 years, the Terracotta Army has remained one of the most haunting archaeological discoveries of all time. An army of thousands, life-sized soldiers frozen in silence, guarding the tomb of China's first emperor. Each one carved with precision, each detail whispering secrets from a vanished world. Historians hailed it as a masterpiece of ancient engineering. Archaeologists saw it as a window into the mind of a ruler consumed by power, control, and the dream of immortality. Yet, despite decades of digging and study, one question lingered. Why was this vast army created in the first place? In 2025, that question was finally put to the test, not with shovels or brushes, not even by human eyes, but by artificial intelligence. Armed with cutting-edge scanning, pattern recognition, and predictive modeling, AI analyzed every fragment, every layer of pigment, every trace of placement across the underground complex. What it uncovered stunned researchers and unsettled them deeply. The Terracotta Army, it seems, may not be what we thought at all, and the truth AI revealed was not good. It began when AI flagged a newly unearthed figure that didn't match the established pattern. Its placement, its armor, even the faint marks left in the soil contradicted the story we thought we knew. So the digging pressed on, and the deeper they went, the stranger and more unsettling the discoveries became. Whispers of hidden truths and forgotten stories have lingered for over 2,000 years. And now, those whispers are finally breaking through the silence. Origins of the Terracotta Army. Recent findings have begun to confirm what many long suspected. The Terracotta Army is far more mysterious and perhaps more dangerous than we imagined. The secrets buried in Xi'an are surfacing, and what they reveal is making historians uneasy. It all started back in 1974, during a severe drought near Xi'an. Farmers digging a well struck something unusual beneath the dry soil. Their tools scraped against hard surfaces that didn't belong to the earth. At first, they assumed it was broken pottery or the remains of some forgotten ruins. But as more fragments emerged, a clearer picture formed. The curve of an ear, the lines of a moustache, the folds of armor, all sculpted from clay. They had unknowingly uncovered the first pieces of one of the most extraordinary discoveries in modern archaeology. Archaeologists rushed to the site, and within weeks, the earth began to give up its secret. A vast, silent army, buried for over 2,000 years. Row upon row of soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, stretching farther than the eye could see, across spaces the size of football fields. Each one life-sized, carved with breathtaking detail, down to the laces on their boots and the veins in their hands. The Terracotta Army had risen from the soil, and the world would never view ancient China the same way again. But what unsettled researchers most was this: no two faces were alike. Every warrior bore a unique expression, a distinct mood, a flicker of individuality, as though each figure carried the shadow of a real person who once lived. These weren't statues churned out in bulk. They were sculpted with obsessive care, with lifelike precision that seemed deliberate, crafted for reasons no one yet fully understood. And this army was only the beginning. As excavations spread, archaeologists uncovered entire pits arranged with an eerie sense of order. One was filled with infantry lined up in battle formation. Another held archers positioned as if ready to fire. A smaller enclosed chamber seemed to serve as a command post, where higher-ranking officers stood apart, flanked by what appeared to be bodyguards and attendants. There were also chariots, horses, and pieces of equipment, all sculpted from the same clay. In the hands of these figures had once rested real bronze weapons. Many had long since been looted or corroded, but a few survived, so well preserved that their blades were still sharp, their surfaces still gleaming after 2,000 years underground. Every detail suggested purpose. The Terracotta Army wasn't just a work of art, it was a strategic force crafted as though the emperor truly intended to fight battles in the afterlife. And at the heart of it all stood the vast mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unite China. A ruler remembered for his boundless ambition, ruthless conquests, and deep-rooted paranoia. The Emperor's Tomb. The construction of the first emperor's tomb was no ordinary project. It took decades and the forced labor of hundreds of thousands of workers, toiling day and night. What they built was not just a burial site, but an entire underground world meant to mirror the empire above. Ancient records describe vast palaces, detailed maps of the land inlaid with precious stones, and even rivers and seas recreated with flowing liquid mercury. For centuries, many dismissed these stories as nothing more than legend, but modern science began to suggest otherwise. When researchers tested the soil around the central burial mound, they detected unusually high concentrations of mercury, evidence that aligned almost perfectly with those ancient accounts. Even with today's advanced technology, ground-penetrating radar, non-invasive scans, and state-of-the-art imaging, the emperor's main chamber has never been opened. Qin Shi Huang, the man who unified China, still lies sealed inside. The Chinese government has long maintained that disturbing the tomb could destroy whatever fragile relics remain. And so, for now, the secrets of the emperor's resting place stay hidden, untouched for over 2,000 years. Many archaeologists agree that the emperor's tomb should remain sealed. They point out how exposure to air and moisture has already caused irreversible damage to many of the painted warriors uncovered in the outer pits. Yet, the decision not to open the main chamber continues to spark quiet debate. What has already been unearthed, the warriors, the horses, the chariots, suggests that this is far more than just a burial site. It is part of a vast underground world, most of which still lies hidden beneath layers of earth and mystery. A new warrior. Everything we know about the Terracotta Army comes from what has been carefully and cautiously revealed so far. Each detail, the hairstyles, the armor, the positioning of the weapons, hints at something much deeper. This wasn't simply an emperor's tribute to the afterlife. It was an entire world designed to endure long after his death. And that world is still there, silently stretching beneath the fields of Qian, untouched in many places, waiting for the day someone dares to uncover more. That moment came in the closing weeks of 2024. A new excavation began in Pit 2 of the Terracotta Army site, and with it, a new warrior emerged, one that could change everything we thought we knew. At first, the excavation seemed routine. A cautious, carefully planned effort to expand the dig without risking damage to the fragile site. Progress was slow, deliberate, and closely monitored. But in the final days of December, something unusual surfaced. Beneath layers of compacted soil and broken fragments, the team uncovered the upper half of a terracotta figure that immediately stood out from the rest. Its face was strikingly defined, its posture commanding, and its armor unlike anything documented before. Etched into the clay were intricate decorative patterns with faint traces of pigment suggesting it had once been painted in bold, perhaps even vibrant colors. The hairstyle was elaborate, signaling high status, and the figure was positioned near two chariots, both damaged yet crafted with remarkable precision compared to others in the same pit. Then, in the early days of January 2025, as the lower half was revealed, the truth became clear. This was no ordinary soldier. This was a commander. And with that, history was made. It was the first major warrior discovery in over 30 years. And this discovery came at a time when many believed the Terracotta Army had already revealed most of its secrets. What made this particular figure so remarkable wasn't just its ornate armor or commanding appearance. It was where it was found, the objects surrounding it, and the extraordinary craftsmanship that went into its creation. A new narrative Pit 2 had long been associated with cavalry and flanking units. But the placement of a commander's figure within that area suggested something far more complex, a deliberate organizational structure carved into clay. The presence of a high-ranking leader implied that military hierarchy had been represented in sculptural form, right down to the command level. For years, archaeologists debated how much of the Terracotta Army was mass-produced versus how much reflected individual identity. Earlier discoveries led many to believe that only the heads were customized, while the bodies were made from standard molds. But this figure shattered that idea. His armor wasn't just different. It was intricately detailed, unlike anything seen before. His stance wasn't stiff or generic. One arm was raised slightly higher, as if caught in the act of giving an order. That single gesture changed everything. It opened up a new line of inquiry. Were some of these figures created to embody specific roles, or perhaps even to immortalize real individuals from the emperor's court? The implications stretched far beyond archaeology. Historians, artists, and cultural theorists around the world began asking new questions. Was this commander part of a larger story sculpted into the army's design? Was his placement a deliberate marker of power, not only for the emperor's imagined afterlife, but as a reflection of the political order that shaped the empire itself? Museums around the world quickly began reshaping their exhibitions to reflect this new discovery. At the Bowers Museum in California, where newly excavated pieces from the terracotta site went on display in 2025, the commander figure was presented as the centerpiece, an embodiment of both the technical brilliance and the symbolic weight hidden within the emperor's mausoleum. Experts soon started noticing subtle details that had been overlooked before. The commander's position near weapon fragments hinted that not all units of the army were created equal in function. His armor carried tiny ridges that may have marked rank or affiliation. Even the way the clay surface had been carefully smoothed in certain areas suggested a higher level of craftsmanship reserved only for figures of special importance. These weren't just decorative flourishes. They may have been part of a visual language, a code meant to communicate hierarchy, loyalty, and control to anyone observant enough to notice. Discoveries like this remind us that the Terracotta Army is not a single artwork, nor merely a frozen battlefield. It is a system, an encoded expression of an empire that valued order above all else. And when that system suddenly reveals a new piece, especially one that challenges old assumptions, it forces us to look again and rethink everything we thought we understood. The commander may have been sculpted more than 2,000 years ago, but in 2025, he stepped back into the spotlight, bringing with him questions that had no easy answers. The hidden tomb. And yet, even such a remarkable find is only a glimpse, because the greatest mystery of all still lies untouched beneath the earth. What remains hidden? Not far from the silent ranks of the Terracotta Army, beneath a massive grass-covered mound that rises like a watchful hill at the heart of the burial complex, lies something no one has ever seen. This is believed to be the final resting place of Qin Shi Huang himself, the first emperor of China, the man who forged an empire through conquest, ambition, and fear. Unlike the pits of soldiers, horses, and chariots that have been open to the world for decades, the emperor's central tomb remains completely untouched, not partially explored, not temporarily opened, sealed in its entirety. There are few places on Earth where such a monumental archaeological site has been so deliberately left alone. And it isn't because of a lack of interest or technology. Ground-penetrating radar has already mapped much of the underground layout, revealing a massive inner complex, high walls, possible corridors, and what looks like an artificial landscape built beneath the Earth itself. The scans suggest the chamber is vast, intricate, and still structurally sound. And yet, despite this knowledge, the official position remains unchanged. The tomb will not be excavated. The most common reason cited is preservation. Archaeologists point to what happened when the first terracotta warriors were unearthed in the 1970s. Many of them lost their vivid paint within minutes of being exposed to air. That devastating loss became a lesson the Chinese archaeological community has never forgotten. Their stance has remained firm. Until technology advances enough to ensure nothing inside is destroyed, the tomb must stay sealed. But not everyone is convinced. Over the years, a quiet wave of skepticism has grown. Some researchers and historians question whether the hesitation is truly about conservation, or whether there might be something else behind the silence. After all, the ancient texts that describe the emperor's burial speak not only of treasures, but of warnings, disturbing details meant to keep intruders away. According to Sima Qian, the court historian who wrote about Qin Shi Huang's tomb just a century after his death, the chamber was filled with deadly traps, designed to kill anyone who dared to enter. Crossbows rigged to fire at intruders, hidden mechanisms buried within the walls. And perhaps most unsettling of all, rivers of liquid mercury flowing through the burial chamber meant to mimic the great waterways of China. For centuries, these warnings sounded more like legend than fact. But in recent years, science has begun to confirm them. Soil samples taken from around the mound revealed mercury levels so alarmingly high that they can't be explained by natural causes. The concentrations appear to match the very rivers described in ancient texts. If those rivers of mercury were truly crafted to form artificial lakes and seas within the tomb, it means the old accounts were not symbolic at all. They were literal. The emperor's tomb wasn't designed for beauty or serenity. It may have been designed as a trap. And that raises a chilling question. What kind of ruler spends years constructing a death chamber that no living person was ever meant to enter? There's another mystery too. Who and what was buried with him? Qin Shi Huang was not a man who believed in traveling light. He expected his empire to follow him into the afterlife. Ancient records claim that many artisans and workers who helped build the tomb were sealed inside once construction ended, ensuring no one could reveal its secrets. If that's true, the central chamber may still contain human remains, preserved in toxic air, lying alongside treasures never before seen in the modern world. There could be scrolls, artifacts, even lost blueprints of the ancient empire, all waiting in complete darkness. Or perhaps the truth is something else entirely, something never written in any surviving record that has kept the emperor's tomb sealed for over 2,000 years. For centuries, his silent army has stood guard, speaking only through the mysteries uncovered piece by piece. And with every new discovery, the boundaries of what we thought we understood have been pushed further. Yet the heart of it all, the very place where the story began and where it was meant to end, remains hidden. Not just beneath layers of soil and stone, but behind a deliberate silence. The Terracotta Army was never simply clay and stone. It was a message. And now, that message is slowly beginning to surface. If this changed the way you see history, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. What else might still lie buried beneath Xi'an? Untouched, waiting, hidden not by time, but by design.